Good evening, everyone. We'll call our meeting to order. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki in the district of Sipekne'katik, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. East Hants further acknowledges the 50 African Nova Scotian communities whose 400-year history have contributed to the province's culture, history, and legacies. We are all treaty people. And I would just say we do have regrets this evening from Councillor Garden Cole. We'll now have a moment of silent contemplation. Next, I would be looking for the approval of or amendments to the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried. Next, we will go in camera for a presentation around a land issue.
Approval of minutes.
Sorry. Next, we will go for the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of council policy and in-camera meeting held October 16th, 2024, and the regular meeting of council, which was held on October 30th.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Perry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried. We will now go briefly in camera to have a presentation on a land issue. Is someone prepared to move? We do so.
No move.
Moved by Councillor Dixon, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? We will give staff time to move the meeting in camera. stream and turn the cameras on, and I just caution folks to be aware that the mics will pick up conversations as soon as we go live again. Stream and turn the cameras on, and I just caution folks to telling you twice.
Well, that's good to know.
All right, I would report that we met in camera to discuss a land issue. Their staff was given direction. There are no motions coming forward from that in-camera session. Next, we will go to correspondence for information. You have it before you, councillors. Is there any item under correspondence from information that anyone wants to bring forward at this time? Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Item number 39, correspondent from CCRCE about school transportation and the efforts they're making. Did they indicate they'd get back to us in a time frame on the improvement in that situation, or this is just a letter saying that they're trying their best?
CAO?
Through you, Madam Warden, the letter was just an explanation of the struggles that they're having and thanking us for our correspondence. They did send some marketing material that they are using, which we have shared on our social media. I figured if we were going to talk about the problem, then we should be part of the solution. So we've shared that on our social media, and hopefully that they can get some bus drivers soon.
Okay, thank you.
Any further correspondence for information that anyone wishes to touch on? Councillor Perry.
Yes, I was looking at the, item number 4, the new Growth and Renewal Infrastructure Development Program, and the annual funding. I was wondering if staff has any more information on this, and if there's been any more provided other than just this letter that this program will be available.
Through you, Madam Warden, we did put in an application to this program. Council approved, the project is escaping me, to go forward with an application. A lift station.
Lift station.
Oh, right,
Okay.
the medical center lift station.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Any further items anyone wishes to bring forward? Seeing none, we will move to correspondence for decision. Okay, councillors being asked to review the attached memo and ratify entering into a contract with Irving Oil for fuel delivery services. This is the standing offer, and CAO, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Warden. So councillors, this memo outlines sort of a process error that we had. Back in 2022, we evaluated the standing offer for the provincial contract for fuel services and realized that there would be significant savings for East Hants. So we entered into a contract under that standing offer with the province. Our current procurement policy, because of the value of the contract over the 5 years, we assume 3 years with 2-year extension. Our current procurement contract would have required that approval be sought from council before we enter into that, even though a public procurement was done to get those prices. So that approval wasn't sought from council. So we're looking today to have the conversation with you. If you wanted to defer it to committee to go over this information, we could. But it's a provincially issued contract that we were party to, and just to make sure that we've got our trade agreement clauses covered off, we do need council's approval to enter into that contract.
Councillor Tingley.
Through the chair, based on the information in the council documents, I'm going to move that council ratify entry into a contract with Irving Oil based on the province of Nova Scotia standing offer CW 87473 for fuel delivery services.
Seconded by Counselor Marion. On to the motion, Counselor Carey.
I was wondering, looking at this fuel delivery services, if, as part of our asset evaluation process, if we're looking at alternative methods to cut down on the number of use of fuel and fuel requirements at these sites.
Through you, Madam Warden, not as part of this contract, but as part of our environmental sustainability, we are looking at ways to either make our current fuel usage and power usage more efficient, or look at sort of those renewable energy sources and how we can use those in our asset base. For now, we do have quite a few buildings that are on fuel. This contract, we recently put the Sportsplex over onto as well, and that was a significant savings. I think it was close to 40 cents a liter under this contract savings from what we were paying, so.
Yeah, I definitely see the savings going on here, and it is a lot of fuel that's being used every year in these buildings. And as we move forward, we should definitely look at, as part of that green assessment, to kind of lead the way, and if we can, in becoming more sustainable and more economically prudent for the taxpayers. Thank you.
Yeah, we're definitely doing that.
Okay, seeing no one left to speak, the question has been called. And the motion is passed unanimously. Next item on correspondence for decision. An email from the Drift Climbers Snowmobile Club seeking a letter of support to redirect money from a project they can't proceed with to go towards the rail bed instead, approximately $180,000. This is similar to something we had before, except it's, yeah,
Alana can take it.
okay, Alana?
Thank you, through you, Madam Warden. This is a similar request. It's actually from the East Hants Multi-Use Trails Association, and we did get a request from the group in September where they were filling out an application for funds that the Drift Climbers Snowmobile Club had to redirect it to the Multi-Use Trail Association. The main difference in this request is, I understand through speaking with the group, the OHV committee that was assessing their redirected funds required more specific information on PIDs. So they understood it was the DAR line, but they actually require in the letter of support from the municipality that we note the PIDs, which the group has provided the 4 PIDs there. And it's, I believe, the Trenham Road to Kennecook section, and then on the other side up towards Rhines Road. So that's the main difference in the letter of support, is that they would just be looking for the same letter of support with the PIDs. And they do note that none of this would be used for development and maintenance of the rail bed unless there was an agreement between the group and the municipality. This just gives the opportunity for the funds to be redirected, and they'd be able to hold that for upwards of 2 years until a mutually beneficial agreement could be put in place between the group and the municipality.
Yeah. Counselor Perry.
Thank you. I know on the DAR line, there was some properties that we were dealing with some possible encroachment issues and some other things. Are any of these PIDs any of those properties? And if so, have these PIDs all been cleared up to this point?
So through the warden, to our understanding, they are not. These are actually a majority of the PIDs that were part of the short-term duration, or the short duration maintenance agreement that was done last year.
Okay.
So no.
Okay. No, that's all I wanted to know. I wanted to make sure that we weren't putting this group in a situation where they would be now dealing with something that we're trying to.
They wouldn't be dealing with it until such time as
Thank
they
you.
had an agreement. in it.
Yeah,
Until
so
they had an
this-
agreement,
there would
but-
still have to be an agreement in place before they could ever do anything between both the municipality and the group. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Counselor Rhino. Trying.
I would move that letter of support be sent on behalf of the group.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Before we vote, I would ask if the deputy warden would take the chair. I just have one question around, this is money being redirected from a project that they cannot or are not proceeding with. I would just like to know where that project is located, what it is, and why they're not proceeding with it. You'll have to turn something off.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I can give you some background on that. We're all familiar with Cottage Country, and when they took that over, Wagner owned the land. There was a K road through that property, and Cottage Country wanted that removed, and Wagner gave a large sum of money. I just don't know the exact details of it. That went into trust for the OHV. The money at that time was taken out by the drift climbers to put in the bridge across the Herbert River and the Elliott Road. And because it's been going on for 3 years or more, engineers and the DOT and lawyers and stuff, it doesn't seem feasible that it's actually going to happen. And because the OHV grant was taken out, they either have to spend it or move it to another project. And that's why it's being moved to the Multi-Use Trail Association.
So I'm just a little concerned if there are lawyers involved and DOT and, I'm aware, I think, of where the bridge is. It's where the piece of equipment went through
Yes,
the
yeah.
bridge. And, I'm just a little concerned, is the landowner aware that this is not going to be done anymore?
Yes. As far to my knowledge, it is, yes. Yeah.
And that's all, I don't have any problem with the group doing projects wherever they want, but I'm just a little concerned that a project in an area may be discontinued that could cause some consternation in that area if it is still going through the courts and through the provincial government and waiting for some resolution. And I just wouldn't want the municipality to be somehow
If I may,
dragged into that.
I don't think there's anything in the courts. It's the lawyers dealing with the engineers from DOT. And because it is a K road, a government road, and there's certain stipulations that must be met, and engineers can't seem to come to an agreement on what it should be. And it just seemed one of those things that's going to be prolonged for years, and really nothing's going to happen. And I think that's a decision that the drift climbers have made. It's costing money to have these lawyers on retainer all the time. So I'm assuming they just felt that it's not going to be reasonable. That's why they want to move the money to somewhere else. And not only that, because they've already applied for this grant, they have to show where they spent that money before they can apply for another grant. So they're held up by not being able to apply for another grants because that one has not been spent yet. If they turn it over to another organization, then they can actually apply for another grant for something else. So that's any clarification.
Thank you.
Question.
I kind of fell asleep there.
You can turn it back to me or.
Okay, yes, back to you.
Okay. The question has been called on the motion. Are you ready for the vote? And the motion is passed unanimously. So moving along, the next item on correspondence for decision is training opportunities with AMANS in rules of order in person and financial management for elected officials, which is virtual. There was a $10,000 budget, much of which remains. So should I turn this over to the president of AMANS to address? Over to you, Kim.
Through you, Madam Warden. I am president of AMANS, but from your perspective, I'm your CAO, recommending to you that if you are so inclined, that these courses offered to elected officials are very well put together. They have a lot of good information, and for anyone who, you all sit through meetings, the rules of order and meeting processes that Chris McNeil does is an excellent course. I've never heard anybody say anything other than that about it. If you plan on chairing meetings, or if you're chair of a committee, I would highly recommend that you partake in some of that course as well. So we're looking today, we do have a $10,000 budget for council training this year because we did have an election and we knew we were going to have new folks on board. So we're looking to see if councillors generally would request this through council. So we wanted to put it on your agenda to give you an opportunity to get council to okay it. The other one on financial management for elected officials, again, an excellent course. The curriculum is really well put together, and it's generally instructed by accountant type CAOs that can give you some great insight into that. So rather than getting into who wants to take what courses and when, perhaps you can do that tonight, or maybe a blanket motion from council that if councillors are interested, we can register them. And that's probably the easiest route than getting into who's going to do what here this evening.
And that will give councillors time to look at their calendars
Yeah.
and figure it out. Councillor Mitchell.
Could you scroll back to the top a minute? Right there. Friday, December the 6th, is that 2 weeks to get the early bird rate?
For which course are you looking at?
December the 6th in Bible Hill.
Yeah, so we would have to register you by Friday to get the early bird rate.
Can that be done?
Yep.
Okay. I'll put my name forward for that one.
How about, I'm just going to suggest that we make a motion to endorse any counselor who wants to partake of any of these, and then you just have to get to the CAO and the registration.
Okay.
would be done.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. Motion is passed unanimously.
Just to follow up, is lunch provided that day, or what is the,
We can check for you. I'm not sure if lunch is provided or not, but we can check. Generally,
I'll make you a sandwich.
oh,
I think it is.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, next item. The Clean Foundation is offering a training opportunity for council entitled Climate Leadership for Municipal Councils, Introduction to Climate Action. Who's going with that one? Don't everybody jump at once. CAO.
Again, Madam Warden, the letter speaks for itself. I guess we just need to know if councillors are interested in going to this training. I can't speak to the training itself. I've never been to it, but as part of their council onboarding, Clean Foundation is offering this for elected officials.
So are they offering to come to individual councils and put this on? Is that my understanding?
Yes. Yeah.
So councilors, are we interested in setting some time aside and having the Clean Foundation come and offer us some training? First, I have Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I'd be interested in having them come and provide some training to us, but looking at the calendar and what's coming up, it would be post-budget, I would say would be the best time for them to come and provide some training for us. It would allow us to get through budget season and some of the most inclement weather as well. So I'd make a motion that we would contact them to see if providing that this training post-budget or post-budget cycle was a possibility.
Second it.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Question's been called. Motion is passed unanimously. Next item. NSM proposed bylaw changes for consideration at the annual general meeting during the NSFM Fall Conference. CAO?
Through you, Madam Warden. So the NSFM, with their last changes to their bylaw, made councils their member instead of individual councillors. So I think the NSFM proposed bylaw changes, they're pretty minor this time around. And I think before the NSFM conference next week, your representatives there are going to vote on these. So if there was an opportunity for some discussion, if there's any concerns, you would want to express those now for your fellow councillors who are going to the conference next week to have on hand. I would also just take an opportunity to remind folks that the election for president of NSFM is happening now. So if you haven't voted for that, you should have instructions in your box on how to vote. And I would encourage you all to vote for president. So there's no, I personally don't think there's anything here for council to get, to have much discussion on. They're fairly benign changes to the bylaws, but I wanted to give council an opportunity to have that conversation and not be presumptive.
So, any discussion or, so I don't believe, do we need a motion for this? Let's see. So I guess I would ask council if anyone has any concerns with the proposed changes or if we are satisfied to let them go forward. Seeing no one, I'm going to assume that means we're satisfied to let them go forward. That concludes correspondence for decision. Next, we have a resolution that has been provided around the Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund. I'll turn it over to Jesse. This was kind of a late-breaking opportunity that is rather time-sensitive, as I understand.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Warden. Yes, apologize for the late entry for the topic. It's brand new, hot off the presses. Staff just met on the topic Wednesday last week. That was after executive committee, so hence the late delay. Seeking a recommendation to prioritize a project titled Brookside Wastewater Revitalization Project as the municipality's first priority for a funding application through the Federal Canadian Housing Infrastructure Fund. Now what that is this is a new fund that has just been launched by the federal government. The first wave of funding is $1 billion available across Canada. It needs to link back to housing and infrastructure related to expediting housing. Where our municipality is less than 3,000 residents, our category enables 50% funding, which is ideal. And the spending, once approved, does not need to be completed until 2031. So once approved, you have time to execute. It's not something that has to be necessarily in the ground right away. However, that said, is the project that staff are recommending, we are recommending that we proceed right away once we get going. So what we've put together are items that were coming forward in the upcoming capital budget that related back to the RV Anderson capacity report. And we gave a high level overview. Well, we didn't get to the detail of each project until the capital budget, but this is items that came from that discussion. There's Poplar Drive lift station renewal. It's actually a replacement. A force main along Brookside, which reroutes, it redistributes wastewater through that subdivision and sets up a future sewer shed. It changes our sewer shed system, in which a sewer shed is the collection areas of how it works its way to the lagoon. We'd resplit that, and it sets us up for the future, where two future imminent developments would be able to benefit from that, as well as future phases of larger developments that we've discussed. Also, being opportunistic, the location of the wastewater force main would be right along a ditch that we would then enclose that can set up for a future AT project. That also happens to be part of a strategic document that council's endorsed, our long-term active transportation plan for the municipality. We wouldn't be doing the full project, but it absolutely sets that up to be significantly less costly in the future, which is ideal. We would take the opportunity to start working in permanent backup power and lift stations, two specifically, that in tandem that would go direct to the Lance Lagoon. That's ideal, and that's part of our plan on working towards climate resiliency as well. And so the total bundle that staff have put together is estimated at $11.9 million, which is almost a $6 million request for funding from the federal government. And that was the largest combination we could come up with the highest linkage to the funding criteria that we could find on the short notice. And that's why it's being targeted, and that's why it's being brought forward tonight. The advantage of bringing this forward tonight is strategic. It's a rolling application. There's not a deadline on the first wave. So it's first in, first approved, gets rewarded. And therefore, staff see this as an opportunity to get an application in early in the coming weeks. And that would put us at an advantage to getting a yes through the application process early. It would not stop us from following up with further applications either, which we will absolutely be recommending we do. We just need time to get there. Just the strategic themes that we hit: wastewater capacity, active transportation, and climate resiliency. Those are the big ones. It's all the right things. It's all the right reasons. It hits this application. It hits the application criteria. And it's a lot of money that we could be saving for our residents and stakeholders. So that is, the resolution is up on the board, and I hand it over to council for questions.
Okay, first up, Councillor Tingley.
Through the chair, I think you covered everything pretty well there. First time I saw this was a couple of days ago. I didn't know about it, but I certainly knew about the expenses that were coming up because I've been hearing about it for the last few years. Obviously, if we were successful with this application, it would be great for the municipality. So I'm going to move that council prioritize the Brookside water or wastewater revitalization project as municipality's first priority for funding applications through the Federal Canadian Housing Infrastructure Fund.
You have a second? Seconded by Councillor Dixon. Okay, before the motion, I have Councillors Perry, Dixon, Mitchell, Rhino, and Musa. So we'll go first. I'll allow a bit of leeway. Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam.
Oops, 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Through you to staff. Great to see this put together in favor of it. The only thing I question is 11.9 million. It seems every time we've been doing assessments on anything lately, They've been coming in underneath the actual cost, and we've always been coming back, needed to receive extra funding and stuff for that. So is 11.9 the number we should be asking for, or due to the current cost of things, should that number be higher going to the federal government?
We do have a contingency amount built into that ask.
Through you, Madam Warden, our staff dug in deep end of last week to question that very topic in our numbers, and we have a detailed line item of each project line. Spent several hours making sure that the numbers were reasonable, but not cutting ourselves short.
Okay.
We put a lot of thought into this number and feel that we're better set up than past applications.
Okay, no, I just know it was a very short timeline and
Yeah.
a lot of work to do to get this done. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys had the time to do that stuff. I feel comfortable. Thank you.
Next up, Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Through you to staff. Do you need permission from Public Works to work along the roadway?
Through Madam Warden, in portions of the section where Brookside has part municipal, there will be permits required with the province to work. That said, this project and topic has been discussed with Public Works staff in the past, and I see there being positive outcome. Part of the project on the storm section and in closing it actually does the province some favors. There's some culverts in need of cross culverts in some need of some TLC, and we would essentially be executing that. So I see this being very well received by the province.
Thank you.
Councillor Reinhardt.
Well, you all know how I feel about the housing infrastructure fund, and I won't bother repeating it. But I also understand that if this money is going to be out there, this municipality should take full advantage of it. The only thing I am disappointed is, and I will support the motion, but one thing I am frustrated with is the fact that most of this money will be spent in a certain area of the municipality. Understanding that it is an urban area and understanding the growth and everything, I understand that. But I would wish that at some point that we could look farther across this municipality to increase housing in all aspects of the municipality, not just in one area. I think that, I spoke of this before on this, and I think that, we should be thinking what we can do right across the municipality and what projects we could come up with that would increase housing out there, and then it would benefit the entire municipality. This is how I feel, and most of the projects that come down from the federal and provincial governments certainly just benefit one area of the municipality. I would like to see a broader range so everyone could benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. And certainly, I think staff found the projects that were currently in the hopper that they could get forward as quickly. And as the director has said, there is nothing that precludes us for applying for more of this money down the road when we have more time to try and see what else might qualify. So, is there any further discussion on the motion? You ready for the question? Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously. Okay, moving along, the next item will be the Fire Advisory Committee report. And since our chair has retired, I believe the vice chair of that committee is Councillor Mitchell at this time.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Fire Advisory Committee report to Municipal Council. Fire Department re-registration, Brooklyn. In June 2024, when Council approved the Fire Department's re-registration, we had not received the form from Brooklyn. As part of motion C24, bracket 201, Council approved the Fire Advisory Committee approve the Fire Advisory Committee to review the application when it came in and make a recommendation to council. Brooklyn's application form has been received and reviewed by the committee. The Fire Advisory Committee recommends that council approve the annual registration for the Brooklyn Volunteer Fire Department. As vice chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Musa. Any discussion on the motion? Question's been called. Somebody else is left to vote. It's you. And the motion has passed unanimously. Back to you, Counselor Mitchell.
As chair of the, vice chair of the committee, I so move. Is there another thing?
No, I think that was it.
That's it.
Are you moving the acceptance of the report?
Yes.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried. Next would be the Police Advisory Committee report. Over to you, Counselor Rhino.
Thank you, Madam Warden. The committee held its regular meeting on November the 12th, 2024 in council chambers. The following motions came forward as a result of the meeting. Selection of a chairperson and vice chairperson. Myself was appointed as chairperson of the Police Advisory Committee, and Deputy Warden McPhee was appointed vice chair of the Police Advisory Committee. Department of Justice Training. A portion of the Department of Justice Training was presented by Danielle Desjardins, RCMP liaison with the Department of Justice. The remainder of the training will be rescheduled in the new year. Selection and date of an annual performance plan workshop. The annual performance plan workshop will take place January 16, 2025. H Division Tour, Spring 2025. The H Division Tour allows council members to explore the police resources available to East Hants. The Police Advisory Committee recommends to council that council direct the CAO to work with the RCMP to schedule a tour of H Division for police advisory members in the spring of 2025. As chair of the committee, I do so move.
Seconded by Counselor Mitchell. Any discussion on the motion? Question's been called. Motion is passed unanimously.
RCMP quarterly report. The RCMP presented their quarterly report, which include follow-ups to previous meetings, HR update, operations update, calls for service, road safety, school resource, East Hants Community Policing, Annual Performance Plan, and H Division Tour. 2025 dates, February 18th, May 13th, and 16th, and November 18th. Police moved that the Police Advisory Committee recommend to council that council set the following dates for 2025 meetings of February the 18th, May the 13th, September the 16th, and November the 18th, 2025. As chair of the committee, I do so move.
Seconded by Counselor Musa. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. Motion is passed unanimously.
Madam Warden, this being to the conclusion of my committee report, I move the adoption of this report.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. All those in favor? Contrary, motion is carried. Moving along, we will go to Corporate and Residential Services Committee, and Counselor Garden Cole is not with us this evening, so the vice chair is Counselor Perry. Over to you.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Selection of chairperson and vice chairperson. Councillor Garden Cole was appointed chairperson of the Corporate Residential Services Committee. Councillor Perry was appointed vice chair of the Corporate Residential Services Committee. Letter to the province, MGA change request. The Halifax Regional Municipality Charter includes a section outlining when Halifax Council is permitted to go in camera for confidential discussions in closed sessions similar to the Nova Scotia Municipal Government Act. One difference is the charter allows in-camera discussion regarding federal and provincial government topics, which the NSMGA does not permit. There is an interest in seeking support for changes to the NSMGA to also include this allowance. The Corporate Residential Services Committee recommends to council. The council directs staff to write a letter to the province seeking changes to the Nova Scotia Municipal Government Act to allow for in-camera discussions related to federal and provincial government topics similar to the Halifax Regional Municipality Charter Section 19I, and copy to the NSFM, AMAs, AMANAS, and MLAs. As chair of the committee, as vice chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Musa. Any discussion on the motion? Question has been called. Motion is passed unanimously.
Code of Conduct, Council Procedures Policy Update. Following consultation with municipalities on the Code of Conduct framework, the elected officials' Code of Conduct was legislated into effect in the fall of 2024. The regulation requires municipalities, villages to adopt a Code of Conduct consisting of the model Code of Conduct as outlined in the regulation. The Municipal Code of Conduct is an important tool for promoting integrity and accountability within local government in Nova Scotia. This provides a clear guidelines for elected members of council, supporting them in upholding the high standards expected by their communities. By strengthening good governance, the code will bring lasting benefits to municipalities and villages across the province, furthering our shared commitment to serve the public with transparency and excellence. The Code of Conduct recommended in this report has all the elements of the new legislative code, along with elements from the existing Municipality of East Hants Code of Conduct. The Corporate Residential Services Committee recommends to council the council approve the council procedure policy is attached to the Executive Committee agenda dated November 12, 2024, and that the council procedure policy be amended to remove the Code of Conduct content as posted to the council agenda, and that the independent investigator be chosen by the CAO from the AMANS call for qualifications. As chair of the committee, as vice chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Merriam. Councillor Tingley.
Through the chair, not going to drag it out. I wrote to all of council tonight. I'm just wondering if anybody's interested in having a second sober look at that one line. I'm totally in agreement with the whole code of conduct, obviously. But I think that that one section that permits us from contacting those entities that are listed there to gather information is just too restrictive. It just states dealing with any municipal matters, which some of the matters the municipality is not even dealing with. And this will prevent councillors from contacting those people in the future. If council's not interested in talking about it, we'll just go to the vote.
Are there any other comments or questions? Question has been called on the motion. And the motion is passed by a vote of 9-1, with Councillor Tingley voting nay. Back to you, Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Approval of the 2025 council calendar. A calendar for all regularly scheduled committee meetings and council meetings for 2025 was presented for approval. The Corporate Residential Services Committee recommended council that council approve the 2025 calendar. As vice chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Dixon. Is there any discussion on the motion? Question's been called. And the motion is passed unanimously.
Asset management, road state of the infrastructure. This information report follows up the May 2024 Corporate Assessment Management Program update to provide an overview of the current state of East Hants roads infrastructure. The amended report was posted as directed by committee. The Corporate Residential Services Committee recommended the council receive and file the East Hants Road Assets State of Infrastructure Update report dated September 11, 2024, as amended with table changes before publication. As vice chair of the committee, I so move.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Question has been called. Motion is passed unanimously.
Sustainable Services Growth Fund projects. The municipality of East Hants received a letter from the Nova Scotia Minister of Municipal Affairs and House It dated March 31st, 2023, indicating the province of Nova Scotia approved a grant of $1,123,778 to support infrastructure investment under the new Sustainable Service Growth Fund. Council approved a list of projects to apply these funds to at the July 26, 2023 council meeting. Important criteria required to receive this funding was that projects would be completed by March 31st, 2025. Council has since approved 2 changes in project funding allocations. Those projects are now complete with the exception of one. In May 2024, Council approved $454,651 of this funding to be allocated to the Medical Center Lift Station. Work has not progressed as quickly as originally thought on this project, and it will not be completed by March 31st, 2025. Therefore, a change in project allocation is required. Move that Corporate Residential Service Committee recommend to Council the Council approve a revised allocation of $454,651 SSGF grant from the Medical Lift Station towards the following 3 projects. Active Transportation, Highway 214, $273,248. Water Tower Renewal Elmsdale, $151,100. Water Tower Renewal Lance, $30,303. As Vice Chair of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Councillor Merriam. Is there any? Councillor Mitchell.
Just a quick question. Thank you, Madam Warden, through you to staff. Water tower renewal, can you tell me what that is? Is that painting or?
Oops, sorry, wrong mic.
Through you, Madam Warden. So water tower renewal, that was internal maintenance focused on corrosion control on the internal aspects of the 2 water towers. And those are just portions of the cost of work that was completed in this past year.
Any further discussion on the motion? Questions been called? Motion is passed unanimously.
Growth and Renewal for Infrastructure Development Program, GRID. Municipality of East Hants received an email from the Nova Scotia Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing dated 18th October 2024 calling for applications for funding to the GRID program. The GRID program supports investments in priority infrastructure projects that address critical capacity issues, build more accessible and adaptable communities, and enable the preservation and expansion of services for new housing developments. Eligible projects include water, wastewater, stormwater, climate change adaptation, and accessibility. The total funding available is $15 million. They will fund up to 50% of the total cost of an eligible project. The deadline for the application is the 13th of December 2024. Projects must be shovel-ready and be completed by March 31st, 2026. The Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends to Council, the Council approve the GRID applications for the following 2 projects. Medical Lift Station Priority 1, total $950,000 for an amount of grant of $475,000. Backwash Storage Shuby Water Treatment Plant Priority 2, total cost is $300,000. The amount will be $150,000. As Vice Chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Hebb. Councillor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Just as the project that we just asked for from the federal, wouldn't be better option for us to ask for more funding? Or? Like, it's way more expensive than this one, so if we could get fun.
CAO wants to weigh in.
Through you, Madam Warden, this whole funding pot is only $15 million for the whole province.
We don't have to ask for 50%, we could ask more than,
Yeah, I think that this is typically the province would, in a smaller pot like this, they would give out smaller projects.
okay.
For the bigger ones, you want to go for the big funding pots, the $1 billion funding pots.
Okay. Councillor Rhino.
Well, again, I'll support the motion, but again, this is the third, funding opportunity here we've dealt with here tonight that is being concentrated in one area. I would wish that the other governments in Canada would slowly come up with something couldn't be used across the municipality, and especially in the rural areas. But I will support the motion. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? Question has been called. Motion is passed unanimously.
Housing Accelerator Fund projects. On March 17, 2023, the Government of Canada announced $4 billion in new funding to create a Housing Accelerator Fund. The Housing Accelerator Fund provides incentive funding to local governments to encourage local initiatives that remove barriers to housing supply, accelerate the growth of supply, and support the development of complete low-carbon and climate-resistant communities which are affordable, inclusive, equitable, and diverse. The federal government expects that the Housing Accelerator Fund will result in permits being issued for 100,000 more housing units across Canada. Council received a staff report on July 18, 2023 and July 26, 2023 outlining the application requirements and potential funding. An application was filed with CMHC in August of 2023, and the confirmation was received in February 2024 that the municipality was eligible to receive $5.885 million over a 4-year period. Planning Department staff met regularly with CMHC staff to review the status of the agreed-upon Housing Accelerator Fund Action Plan initiative, as well as to how the funds are being spent on capital projects. The Corporate Residential Services Committee recommends to Council the Council approve the allocation of a portion, $4,542,216 of the expected $5.885 million Housing Accelerator Fund funding towards the following projects. Can I just say, as the table presented above, as Vice Chair of the Committee, I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Mitchell. Any discussion on the motion? Question has been called. Motion is passed unanimously.
As Vice Chair of the Committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion is carried. Next on our agenda is the signing of the new elected officials code of conduct. We did sign a code of conduct, I believe, at the swearing in, but we have now adopted the new code. So that does have to be signed and declared. And so it is on your desk, councillors. I would ask you to fill it out and sign it, and we'll pick it up. The CAO will sign it as witness and pick it up.
No. That's your oath of office. You have to read.
And the date is November the 20th, for anyone that is wondering. Okay, that's, okay. So everyone has passed their signed code in, so. All those present, yes. So we will move on to the Infrastructure and Operations Committee report, and back to you, Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. The selection of chairperson and vice chairperson was conducted, and myself was appointed chairperson of the Infrastructure and Operations Committee, with Councillor Musa appointed vice chair. Status of construction and demolition landfill cell waste management center. Regulations on the management of construction waste were updated in 2023 with changes to the materials approved for disposal in these landfill cells and design requirements for future cells. The municipality contracted Dillon Consulting to complete a cell analysis, including remaining airspace available and options on constructing a new cell. The Infrastructure and Operations Committee recommends the council approve going to market for design and engineering services in fiscal 24-25 related for new construction and demolition debris cell at the East Hants Waste Management Center. This funding will come from Solid Waste Operating Reserve G501. The construction cost of the cell will be included in the 2025-2026 capital budget. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question?
Question has been called. And the motion is passed unanimously.
Crosswalk, Highway 2 Enfield. The installation of the crosswalk on the Highway 2 Enfield is listed on the 5-year capital budget as project number 21-033 with an approved budget of $145,000. The lowest construction bid has been received at $168,910 plus HST, with a pre-approved design budget of $13,395 plus HST. Staff are seeking approval from council to proceed with a new budget of $196,000. The Infrastructure and Operations Committee recommends to council the council approve budget for capital project 21-033 Crosswalk Highway 2 Enfield be increased by $51,000 funded from the Housing Accelerator Fund. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. Is there any discussion on the motion? Counselor Dixon.
Yes, is there any indication when this will be done? And he's not there. I'll withdraw my question.
Okay. CIO? Just give me one moment, please.
Through you, Madam Warden, it will be like this fall, this winter. We've got the contracts signed, and I believe they're starting work as soon as possible, with the intent that it would be in.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? Question's been called. Motion is passed unanimously.
As chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Seconded by Counselor Musa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion is carried. We will now move to the Planning Advisory Committee report. Over to you, Counselor Mitchell.
The committee held its regular meeting on November 12th, 2024 in council chambers. The following motions are coming forward as a result of that meeting. Selection of chairperson and vice chairperson. Councilor Mitchell, myself, was appointed chair of the Planning Advisory Committee. Councilor Musa was appointed vice chairperson of the Planning Advisory Committee. PLN 24-010, Andrew Kim, unsubstantial development agreement amendment. The municipality has received an application for an unsubstantial amendment to a development agreement. The original development agreement was approved by council October 2023 for a commercial building, dental clinic, and coffee shop, including a drive-through at 251 Highway 214 Elmsdale. Planning Advisory Committee recommends to council that council approve the application by Andrew Kim for an unsubstantial development agreement amendment to amend the external design of the building and amend the parking lot layout at 251 Highway 214 Elmsdale, and enter an amendment within 1 year of council approval. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. Is there any discussion on the motion? Question has been called. And the motion is passed by a vote of 9-1, with Counselor Rhino voting nay.
UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy Motion C23 (348). As part of the UNIAC Secondary Planning Strategy, council pass motion C-23-348 to direct staff to bring a report regarding the extension development of private roads in the rural use RU zone in Mount Uniac, allowing for subdivision of lots. Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council include the consideration of future changes to the Mount Uniac Growth Management Area after a Mount Uniac GMA servicing feasibility study has been completed in the draft of the Uniac Secondary Planning Strategy. As chair of the committee, I so move.
Seconded by Counselor Merriam. Is there any discussion on the motion? Question has been called. Motion is passed unanimously.
As chair of the committee, I move the adoption of this report.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Dixon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion has carried. Next, we have the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Committee report. Over to you, Counselor Rhino.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Committee held its regular meeting November the 12th, 2024 in council chambers. The following motions are coming forward as a result of the meeting. Selection of chairperson and vice chairperson. Myself was appointed chair of the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Committee, and Councilor Mitchell was appointed vice chair of the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Committee. Familiarization tours for council. In the 24-25 bid budget, there were operating funds set aside to host familiarization tour for East Hants Council. Staff are looking to confirm 2 dates for these tours based on the council availability and the mode of transportation. So from that, the Parks and Recreation and Culture Committee recommend that council approve booking 2 separate dates for council familiarization tour at a date in April 2025 to be the date to be determined, and tentatively June 27, 2025, and enlist the services of Atlantic Bus Mini Coach to provide transportation for the tours. As chair of the committee, I do so move.
Seconded by Counselor Mitchell. Is there any discussion on the motion? Question's been called. We'll go to the vote. Someone needs to vote. Motion is passed unanimously.
Long Lake Access. From the September 25th, 2024 council meeting, staff were asked to investigate the possibility of accepting a waiver of liability or coming into a mutually satisfactory agreement that would allow residents to continue to use an access point off of Long Lake during fall and winter months, once the lake access was closed for the season. Staff were also directed to bring back information on improving the road at this water access point as part of the 25-26 budget discussion. So from that discussion, the Parks and Recreation and Culture Committee recommend that council do not move forward with providing residents keys to gated park sites and to maintain the current level of service in the parks in East Hants. As chair of the committee, I do so move.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question has been called. And the motion is passed by a vote of 8-2, with myself and Counselor Musa voting nay.
All right, District Recreation Funds Policy Update. At June 26, 2024 meeting of council, the motion C-24-211 was made regarding the District Recreation Fund policy as it relates to school playground recapitalization, and review of the District Recreation Fund policy was requested. So from that, the Parks and Recreation and Culture Committee recommends to council that council approve District Recreation Fund policy as attached to the Executive Committee agenda dated November the 12th, 2024. As chair of the committee, I do so move.
Seconded by Counselor Hebb. Is there any discussion on the motion? The question has been called. Motion is passed unanimously.
Madam Warden, as chair, this brings me to the end of my report. I move the adoption of this report.
Seconded by Counselor Dixon. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion is carried. Next, we will go to the nominating committee report, so I will turn the chair over to the deputy warden while I make that report. The nominating committee met prior to tonight's council meeting and bringing forward the following recommendations. The nominating committee was previously established. There are no changes at this time to any public members, as those terms are staggered as to when they run out. For the Agricultural Advisory Committee, we recommend Councillor Carl McPhee and here we go. Councillor Carl McPhee and Councillor Keith Rhino. For the Fences and Arbitration Committee, we recommend Councillor Eldon Hebb and Councillor Craig Merriam as the alternate. For Fire Advisory, we recommend Councillor Norval Mitchell, Councillor Eldon Hebb, Councillor Mike Perry, myself, and Councillor Craig Merriam. For the Audit Committee, we recommend Councillor Sandra Garden Cole, as she is the Chair of Corporate and Residential Services, myself, Councillor McPhee as the Deputy Warden, and Councillor Norval Mitchell. The Source Water Protection Advisory Committee, we recommend Councillor Sandra Garden Cole and Councillor Cecil Dixon. For the Accessibility Advisory Committee, we recommend Councillor Cecil Dixon and Councillor Walter Tingley. For the Housing Working Group, we recommend the current members continue, Councillor Garden Cole, Councillor Musa, and Councillor McPhee. For external, those are the internal committees, so perhaps I'll stop there and do the external committees under a separate motion. So I would move that council endorse these recommendations and appointments to committees.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Oops. And we've had the questions, and we'll go to the vote. Oh, and it's been passed unanimously.
For external committees and boards, the nominating committee recommends Councillor Sandra Garden Cole for Corridor Community Options, Councillor Eldon Hebb for the Northern Region Solid Waste, Councillors Michael Perry and Norval Mitchell for the Colchester East Hants Library Board. So I would move those appointments.
Been moved and seconded by Councillor Mitchell. Is there any discussion? Questions been called. Go to the vote. Oh, and it's passed unanimously.
That concludes my report. I would move the adoption of this report.
All those in favor? Aye. And it's been accepted. Thank you, Warden.
Thank you. So I'll ask you to continue to occupy the chair as I present my warden's report.
Okay. Let's go ahead, Warden.
Okay, thank you, councilors. It's been an interesting first month. The first item I'd like to bring forward today, I did send an email to council. As you're all aware that the Gore District Volunteer Fire Department has had a run of bad luck lately and had been very grateful to have received some help and funding to replace their tanker when it failed. And earlier in the week, or shortly before, their well at their fire hall, it pretty well failed. It could not provide enough water to continue to operate the building every day. So that presented a bit of an emergency, and so they reached out to Brewster, a local well contractor, who recommended that the most economical and most feasible and easy thing to do would be to drill the existing well deeper. So initially, they had hoped that by drilling an extra 100 feet, they would come into more water. That did not happen. They drilled, I forget an extra, I don't have it in front of me, how many extra feet, but it took the total depth of the well from 155 feet to, I believe it was 440 feet before they could get some water. So the cost of this was certainly an unexpected expense for this fire department. And I'm just going to look up the exact total here, if you will bear with me. Oh, that's not it. Here we go. So at the end of the day, the cost to Gore Fire to remediate this well, taxes included, was $22,493.14. We are in the position that we do have money set aside from what was formerly the gas tax money. I believe it's called the Community Building Fund now, which recent changes to the eligibility of projects for that fund now does include fire department infrastructure, excluding trucks and that, but building type and land infrastructure. So in consultation with staff, we have determined that this project does meet that criteria. So we kind of finally have a project in front of us that qualifies for a bit of this funding that's set aside. So because of that, I am prepared to move a motion tonight that we award Gore Fire Department an amount from that fund of $22,493.14 to for the cost of mitigating their well issue.
Okay, we have the motion. It's been seconded by Councillor Hebb. Is there any discussion? We have the question. We'll go to the vote. And the votes are in and it passed unanimously.
Thank you, Council. I know that Gore Fire will be extremely grateful because when I got the call from them, they really felt rather badly to be in a position where they had just received so much funding and they didn't know, exactly if it would be worth asking or not, but anything was worth a try, and I do appreciate your support for this volunteer department. All right, so following our last meeting, which was back in October, I attended the usual directors' meetings. I did attend a book signing by a local author in my community, the author of a children's book called Spencer of a Church Mouse. I would recommend it to anyone. It is a very interesting child's book written by Tracy Barron. I attended on the 29th the East Hants Chamber of Commerce banquet and in the Oakfield Golf Club, and presented an award on behalf of the municipality at that time. Well, perhaps that was done prior to the inaugural meeting of council. I'm sorry, I was going from this. I'm getting behind myself. And beyond that, other than some community functions that I did attend, things did slow down a bit following the election, and at this particular time, that would conclude my report.
Oh, thank you, Warden. Turn the chair back to you.
Thank you. This brings us to the business from councillors, and I will start with Councillor Tingley.
Through the chair, just a couple of things to report. I attended the counselor orientation training November 4th and 5th, 2 full days pretty well, at the convention center in Halifax with several other counselors, and half a day of training here at the municipality. Attended the HERH RCMP hockey game within the last week. It was a good turnout, great fun, good community event. Just have one question in light of the code of conduct that we agreed to tonight. As council is aware, the province has contracted with a consultant to conduct a comprehensive stormwater management needs assessment on behalf of the Department of Municipal Affairs and Housing. The deliveries and outcomes from this will inform the province to support municipalities with stormwater management planning. The high-level goals include decreasing percentage of properties at risk for pluvial flooding. To my knowledge, all councillors have been invited to meet with the consultant, and I've actually had a few calls with them. But in light of this code that we have here, I'm just wondering if I'm permitted to attend, because it is specific to the matters in the municipality. So my question is do I have authorization from council and the warden to attend this meeting that's coming up on November 26th, I believe, later this month, which we've all been invited to attend and have input into?
Through you, Madam Warden, I don't see anything that would preclude councillors from attending that meeting in the Code of Conduct. It is a public consultation that they're doing. They're looking at elected officials. We've had John and Jesse work on our submission from a municipal point of view. So they have provided answers to the survey that the same group has put out, but they do want public consultation. So there's nothing that would preclude you from taking part in that.
Thanks very much. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Tingley. Councillor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I want to start by thanking council and the warden for all the support I got during the passing of my wife, Salma. And I want to thank the community of Mount Uniacke for the beautiful celebration of life they put on for her. And I don't know we were loved that much, but I guess we are doing a good job up there. And I want to ask John about the church roof fund. Is that going to take much longer to award the money? Because it's all done, and I send Rachel all the papers for it.
Through you, Madam Warden, I thought we already had awarded.
It's awarded, but I don't think they ever get it yet,
Okay.
so.
We can look into that.
It's been processed.
Oh, okay. So they should get it soon, because he's got to pay the contractor for it. And one more thing, I know everybody, the warden and myself and Councilor Perry saw some budget discussion on Facebook about our general tax rate and West Hants and Halifax. So is there any way to be able to get our, what's the difference between our general tax rate and the West Hants one? Because those two municipalities, we have some neighbors sitting one on the edge. And when you get general tax rate over there lower than ours, and our total rate is lower than theirs, people get so confused about that. So is there any way we could get things work out, like to be able to get it easier for the resident to absorb those information? So I don't know if Wayne can or the CAO can.
Through you, Madam Warden, it is very difficult. I saw the conversation, I guess, with the public online. And, you can go to the provincial site and see what the general tax rate is, but you really do need to dig really deeply into those numbers to figure out what that general tax rate covers in one area and not in others. So if you look at our general tax rate versus our all-in rates, you know, does the general tax rate include fire? Does it not? Does it include water and sewer? Does it not? So it is very difficult. You can't just simply go to that provincial table and say one has a higher tax rate than the other. It's impossible to do that. The only time you can really do that is with a town. So typically towns have all-in rates. But even then, you're starting to get more models where there's development rates and whatnot. So we can certainly provide you with that information, sort of the breakdown of the rates and how but it will take some time. So if that's something council wants, is it just with West Hants or is it with West Hants and Halifax and Colchester? Like, you know, probably about 10 or 15 years ago, we used to bring that kind of information at budget time for council, but it just got so muddied that it was really difficult to process. But we can certainly try if that's a report that council wants brought back to executive committee.
So like, maybe like, is it in Halifax the same as West Hants? Or are we only difference?
No,
They're same as us or different than both of
they're
us?
probably different than both of you.
Okay.
So with Halifax, for example, they have different area rates for different regions. They have suburban, urban, rural rates, plus their general tax rate. They have school fees, you know.
Ditch tax.
They have a school tax and ditch taxes and.
Yeah, I understand those area rate, but I'm talking about just the general tax rate. Like, probably policing should be an area rate instead of general tax rate. Like, I think that's the only difference between us and West Hants, probably.
I guess I don't know the answer to it, so we'd have to dig into it to
Yeah,
figure it out.
if there's any way to bring it closer, this way it will be easier for the resident that live on the border and talking to their, because you saw the discussion, like it's, and it's hard to explain, so I don't know if we can get something.
There was certainly a lot of misinformation in that Facebook thread, a lot of misinformation. So how we get that out there, and again, is it just between West Hants and East Hants on those borders, or, you know, are there the same conversations happening in Shubenacadie on the border with Colchester? Like, so.
Wow, I don't think anybody on the Halifax side want to move to Halifax, so. Probably West Hants, like mostly because we have a big border with West Hants, and if we could get some clarification on our budget or something like that, will be nice. Thank you. That's all for today. Thanks.
Okay, did you want to make a motion that staff do that report, Counselor?
Yeah, I want to make a motion that staff look into the difference between our general tax rate and the neighboring municipality, like, and to find a way to get the resident to understand it better. I don't know if that. For West Hants, yeah. Thank you.
Do you have a seconder? Second. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. Motion is passed unanimously. That's all, Councillor Musa and Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Yes, it was been a busy time and a somber time this past November in Mount Uniacke. We celebrated we had a celebration of life for Councillor Musa's wife Selma, and it was above capacity, I believe, at the Legion. I'm glad the fire department was there, and the fire inspector wasn't around. It was standing room only, right to the outside. There was also a follow-up celebration of life for Dr. Harding, a longtime doctor in the community who passed, and that was also attended on a couple days later. Which then all rolled into, not very far after, into Remembrance Day. And Remembrance Day was another well-attended event. It was great to see all of the different organizations there, the children. It was moved inside because of the weather to help accommodate with some of the location of the cenotaph in Mount Uniacke. There's been a few things that have come up this past month. One of the residents in my area is an elderly person, and they suffered a broken foot, and they were looking for support. And they called to try and get some meals. The different organizations provide that. And East Hants said they don't provide it. West Hants said they don't provide it. And Halifax said they don't provide it. Was in very good discussions, and she was very happy. Municipal staff reached out to her and has been trying to find the link of what it is, but this is an identified a bit of a gap in what the healthcare plan is. Her coordinator currently for her care is out of West Hants and Windsor, and so it's one of those things that I think moving forward, I'm really happy we did create that position of senior care management, because Calvin has done a wonderful job in getting her in contact with some numbers. I was talking with her last night, and she's called some of those agencies that she was given the numbers to, and they're still giving her a bit of the runaround, but some of her neighbors have stepped up to provide some of that gap. But I think moving forward, we really have to look at supporting that position with information and building a seniors database. So when people in our communities need help as seniors that live alone, that they can be resolved. But I want to say this resident was extremely happy that of the work of the municipality in doing everything they can to try and help her best they could. I also like to highlight, I gotta pull it up here, an Avonview football player this past season for Avonview High School, Jacob Silver from Mount Uniacke. He not only broke the record for the longest field goal kicked within the school, but he also received recognition from NFL Canada for his most recent one-handed catch that led him to a 68-yard touchdown during the season. Because of his outstanding efforts, the Avonview High School football program was granted $3,000 that will be put towards purchasing new equipment from NFL Canada. It was great to see a young man, athletics achievements benefit the school in such a way. And as a resident from Mount Uniacke, kudos to him and the rest of his team on a hard-fought season of a lot of lesson learning. They weren't always coming out on top at the end, but they fought hard right to the end, and his efforts have definitely helped them come a long way and receive some much-needed funding into that program. My next item is going to be doing with lot sizing for accessory dwellings. So in my community, I've been contacted by a lot of people looking to build accessory dwellings for family members on their properties, and they find that they're not able to access any funding because they live on an undersized lot. In most of these cases, it's conversions of a basement or a garage that already exists into an accessory dwelling. They're not actually trying to build anything new. But under the current regulations, in order to have an accessory dwelling or anything, you need to have 0.9 of an acre. And I think this is a gap that was misunderstood by the provincial government in their funding plan. And I believe our regulation too says 0.9, does it not? Because John, correct me, I know they're not able to access the up to $40,000 or $50,000, whatever it is in the provincial plan because of the lot sizing. But do we permit accessory dwellings on lot sizes smaller than 0.9 of an acre?
Through you, Madam Warden, we do in the country residential, rural use, and rural use 2 zones. We don't in the Lakeshore residential zone. So I think I know the case you're talking about, somebody who had contacted us.
There's a few in the Lakeshore residential and a few in the R1 that their property sizes are under an acre. They're undersized lots. So this is an instance where people are trying to address the housing crisis, and our current zoning regulations do not allow them to do that. And they on top of that can't access the funding that's being put out there by the province to help with these projects as well. So I'd like to move that we staff come back with a report outlining the necessary steps to amend our policy to allow accessory dwelling units in the lakeshore residential areas and undersized lots, as long as on-site water and sewer can handle the accessory dwelling.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Musa. Is there any discussion on the motion? Counselor Musa.
Yeah, there are a lot of undersized lots in Mount Union, especially Rockwell Drive, like probably 100 of them. There are quarter an acre, so that's the one I know about. So that's why probably what triggered that. Thank you.
You ready for the question? Question's been called. Motion is passed unanimously.
Thank you, fellow council members for that. And the last thing that has come to mind as many were on the campaign trail, and this time I was fortunately acclaimed, but it did remind me of when I was on the campaign trail, and when we do attend events as councilors, we kind of a lot of the time blend in with the crowd. So because of that, I would like to propose a motion where councilors represent East Hants as a community. At political events, it is important for councilors to represent the municipality well. To this end, I would move that each councilor receive a shirt and jacket of their choosing from the current clothing order be done. I so move.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Counselor Rhino.
Through you, I understand, and I think it's a good idea. Is there any funding available for this? Is there any set aside for, would that fall under training or what would that come out of in the budget?
CAO?
Through you, Madam Warden, we did have some money in this year's budget for bringing on a new council, be it training or events, so you could fund it from that pot of money. I'd have to look at the full council budget for,
Would it support what Councillor Perry is proposing? That what's left or what money's there?
I believe so, yep.
Okay, so I guess what are you proposing, a hat and a jacket or?
A shirt and a jacket. So when you go somewhere, you have a jacket that's in climate weather, you're out in public, you can see it. If you're indoors, you can have a shirt that identifies you as being with these things.
Right.
One of each.
A shirt and a jacket.
Yeah.
Counselor Rhino, anything else?
No.
Any further discussion on the motion? Question's been called. Motion is passed unanimously. Anything further, Counselor Perry?
That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Merriam?
Thanks, Madam Warden. I also attended the counselor orientation training in Halifax and East Hants recently. I attended the Remembrance Day ceremonies in Shubenacadie on November the 11th. I attended the, I'll call it the Braden Bannister Memorial RCMP High School hockey game on November the 16th. A couple nights ago, I gave my 42nd blood donation at the Milford Rec Center and also handling various constituent matters in District 6 for North Lance Milford. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Warden?
Oh, thank you, Warden.
Okay.
I too attended the training sessions in Halifax with the other counselors, and it was very informative, and the training that was given here at the Matheson Center here. I did attend the Remembrance Day service in Shubenacadie also, and it was moved inside to the United Church because of the inclement weather. It was very well attended. It was overflow in the fact that the main church was full the basement was full and there were people in the foyer and out on the doorsteps. So that means that over 500 people attended that service, and we're willing to attend that service even in the rain. So I'm glad to see that people are continuing on to remember our veterans that served overseas and those that returned home. I also like to just point out that the Christmas tree lighting in Shubenacadie is on December 6th. It's always quite well attended. We have a nice firework display usually. I don't know what the plans are this year. There's usually hot chocolate, fireworks, and sometimes some other activities. So encourage anybody to attend it. Hopefully the weather will be good again this year. And that's everything for me.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Councillor Hale.
Thank you, Warden. I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Deputy Warden, or Warden. I, as well as new councillors, attended the orientation and the conference at the beginning of my term in council. I attended the Remembrance Day Parade in Enfield, which was, like everybody else, had a great turnout. A lot of people there. And I attended the Bannister fundraising with the RCMP versus East Hants High School on that. In council, a couple of things come up during, I'm sorry, one thing before I mention that is East Hants Corridor will be hosting the annual Christmas parade on December the 7th at 2 o'clock. They have a new committee, and they're hoping things will go well, and this is maybe their last year doing it. So I may bring this up later in the year. An issue I have, just trying to find out, the rumor around Enfield is there's going to be a roundabout in front of the hardware store by the Enfield Fire Hall, and that there's a new bridge coming over the 102 by the Enfield Legion, and I was told before that they were put on hold and delayed. Is there any way that we can get the the province to inform us what's going on in areas like major projects? I don't know if I'm throwing this to the director or he can catch it. Okay.
Jesse.
Through you, Madam Warden. So the latest update that I'm aware of on the overpass is that the plan from the province is to replace the overpass, the old Enfield Road overpass, next summer.
Okay.
However, the road is intended to stay open, so they would be some minor delays, but it's not that overpass would be closed. They would be replacing beside and have some minor delays because it's big construction. But that said, that is the plan. With respect to roundabout at the Home Hardware-ish intersection, there is a concept. It was published within the Griffin Report, which became public this past summer. That said, is a conceptual design, and it's a provincial intersection, so they haven't disclosed when such a project would take place, but they would be doing their stakeholder consultation at that time, but it's not on a timeline that I'm aware of at this point.
No, appreciate that. Thank you. And I guess the last thing, as I was campaigning, there's a lot of issues, the road, speeding, the pool, and things like that. But the biggest one concern was the water level of Grand Lake and the concern of future use with all the infrastructure going on, the demand for water, like in Halifax, Lake Major is on a low use water when necessary. I'm hoping that that's in the back of your mind when we make all these approvals or developments.
Yeah. Through Madam Warden, absolutely, there is intent of a future study about the total yield potential of Grand Lake, and so that we're managing our water resources responsibly.
Great. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Councillor Mitchell.
PIM on November the 5th, public information meeting. I also attend the Remembrance Day service at the River United Church. It was at capacity, and the fire department stopped that capacity, so they wouldn't let anybody else in. I also attend the hockey game between the RCMP and the high school Good crowd, lots of excitement. Sweat tops were going for the high school fundraiser. We lost a longtime East Hants resident and a resident of Elmsdale last week, Kay Allen. He was there as part of the crew, but it didn't turn out the way we hoped. Jason Hall in the orientation materials, one of his recommendations was stop saying "so moved" in meetings. And that was from an email on November the 1st. And is that something we're planning to do?
The suggestion was to read the motions and not just say "so moved" after a discussion, but to actually verbalize the motions in one of the training things. Certainly something I think we can all aspire to. I'm sure we'll slip up a time or two, but I think generally speaking, we don't do too bad, but certainly it's something we'll be aspiring to do.
Okay. To the director of INO, with the email sent this evening, is that confidential? 2 and 4 construction?
No, it's not confidential.
Through,
Okay.
through Madam Warden, no, and
I wanted to share it with Councilor Hebb, because most of the
Absolutely.
traffic going
absolutely.
is going to Bellin, Nile River over the construction that's taking place in front of Carmy's, the water main. So I just want Councilor Hebb to know, because he'll probably get more emails than me about any delays. Also, next Friday, on November the 29th, next Friday, I'm assuming is the Christmas tree lighting at the Elmsville Square at 7 p.m. So if you're free, come on down. There'll probably be the countdown and probably some fireworks. So that's all, and thank you.
Yeah, Councilor Rhino.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I also attended the counselor training here at the municipal office. On November the 2nd, I attended the 50th anniversary of the Kennecoke Fire Department, which was well attended. On November 11th, I attended the Remembrance Day service at the Knoll Legion, which was a packed event, was held inside also. But coming with that and thinking about, since the area that District 5 is so huge now, and it basically is 2 districts in one, there are several Remembrance Day services that are taking place. Now, when I inquired about this, I was told that a councillor was only allowed 1 wreath. And I would wonder if the council could support me in if I could get a 2nd wreath, because when Councillor Green used to be in District 6 and Iowa, we each got 1, and we each had 1. And I would like to be able to put 1 at one site and attend another. And I had planned to attend through my term on a rotational basis at each one. So I'm asking for support for the council would supply another wreath for District 5 in that area.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Question's been called. Motion is passed unanimously.
I thank you, Councilor, for the support on that. Also, coming up, Maitland Winter Festival will be held from November 28th to December 1st. There's also, although I don't have the date, the tree lighting will be held very, very quickly at the Little White Hall in Knoll Road. I've had an inquiry with regard to civic numbering, so I don't know if this would go through you to John. The 215 between West Hants and East Hants has duplicate numbers. It's a source of confusion for delivery and other things. I'll take my civic number, 8827 Highway 215. There's 2. One's in Pembroke, one's in Maitland. I've had other complaints about the same duplicate civic numbering. I wonder if there could be any discussion had with West Hants in regard to maybe trying to work toward a single a single set of numbers right down through the 215, right through to West Hand, so it'd be less confusing. Is that something we could talk to them about? Or we could, what can we do, or if anything?
Okay, John and Cecil might have some information when John starts. Okay.
Okay, through you, Madam Warden. We've done some renumberings in the past where there was confusing. It's a big deal to do, and you tend to upset people when you change their number to straighten those things out. We certainly could talk to West Hants and see if something can be worked out. I'm not really familiar with the issue, so we'll have to look into it. But if you want us to, I would recommend a motion directing us to go do that.
Well, hearing what you've said, and it's been brought up to me on several occasions, and it is confusing. I have, like, people are using GPS and they're just using 88, like I'll take mine for example, 8827 Highway 215, and the many amount of times I get people in there that, oh no, you're going to Pembroke. It would be nice if we could just change West Hants numbers and would not interrupt ours, but anyway, I would move that we have a conversation, direct staff to have a conversation with West Hants to see if there's anything that can be done with duplicate numbering on the 215 or any other routes that run through areas that have duplicate numbers from between counties. So move.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Oh, Deputy Warden McPhee, 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Warden. I don't know if this is something that's possible or not, but I know as far as Trunk 2 going into Colchester, I've seen that when I was working, there was confusion between numbering. Certainly Route 224, it starts in Milford, changes to Colchester, and then into Halifax County, and the numbers get confused. I know fire departments have had problems there with that one. So it's just the way the numbering system goes. It's done by municipalities instead of starting at one end of a road and going to its final conclusion. So I don't know if there really is something, but I'm not against the motion, not speaking against the motion, but it doesn't sound like something we're probably going to be able to do much with. That's anything. Thanks.
Any further discussion? Question's been called. Motion is passed unanimously.
And the last thing, I'm through you to Director Woodford, or no, I guess this would be Director Holzman now. You know what I'm gonna ask? Where do we stand with our speed radar signs, Jesse, for that? Is that gonna be a fall issue or is it gonna be a spring issue?
Through Madam Warden, I apologize, I didn't get an update ready for this evening, but I can follow up later this week to get you something more concrete on where we're at.
Because I think the last time I asked this, you were hoping for a fall installment. And I just wanted to know where that stood because there's still a number of people. And with the good weather lingering into November, the speed is definitely an issue. And I do remember you saying that Department of Public Works had to do some signing there. And I noticed along the area on the 215, before you enter Maitland, that speed zone and dropping of speeds has occurred. Okay. So I'm just wondering if I was hoping and wondering if those speed radars are very close.
I think the commitment is that Jesse will check into that and get back to you as soon as he finds out.
Yep, and just another thing, I've attended Walton Fire's takeout turkey dinner, and I've attended the Knoll Fire Department breakfast as of last Sunday. So those are the updates from District 5.
Thank you. Now, prior to moving on, councillors, I'd ask your indulgence as I turn the chair back over to the Deputy Warden again for a couple of, oh, yes. Okay. Okay, I too did attend the Remembrance Day service in West Gore, and I also attended the Kennecott Fire 50th anniversary banquet. Beautiful turkey dinner. It was very nice. I was kind of waiting till the end, and I didn't get a chance to speak with Councillor Rhino prior to the meeting. I know he and I were both copied on an email from Knoll Fire Department, and they were requesting a comfort letter as they're seeking to replace a truck that they found some issues when it went for safety inspection. And I know staff have been working and prepared the comfort letters, which council does provide pretty much as a matter of course for fire departments. Also, within that original email was a request for any other funding that might be available, which was then followed up through in correspondence with staff. And since we now know that the Rural Fire Department Capital Fund has built up, that's where we took the bulk of the funding for Gore Fire to replace their tanker truck. So Knoll Fire is requesting $100,000 from that fund to assist in replacing their truck. So I just wanted to get that forward without waiting for another month for more correspondence and that to go. So I'm not sure of the process, but in order to facilitate some discussion, because there was sufficient funding in that pot for each fire department to access approximately that much money, I believe. So I would move that Knoll Fire be granted $100,000 from that Rural Capital Fire Assistance Fund, or however the words flow in that.
Okay, the motion has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Oops, I turned my own microphone on. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yeah.
Keith or Councillor Rhino?
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I'm very supportive of the motion, but I also, we had discussion with this within the orientation day we had here for councillors. Maitland Fire is in the same thing. Are they, and I guess my question was, because I'm a member of Maitland Fire, can I request that, or does that have to come through there? Because I'd like to, they are in the process of ordering a $650,000 truck, just in order, it had to be manufactured small because of the size of the hall, which is another issue. Fires, not the hall, the fire stations.
And I'm not sure what conclusion we eventually landed on as to whether fire department members could do that or not, but I'm sure if the Maitland Fire puts an ask together that any one of us who's not involved in a fire department would be, I'd be more than willing to bring it forward, or I'm sure any councillor would.
CAO, well,
Through you, Madam Warden, I would suggest that the Maitland Fire prepare a letter for council and it would be posted for correspondence for decision. And the month that comes in, then we would deal with it.
is that anything else, Councillor? No. Okay. Councillor Tingley.
Through the chair, I'm in support of the motion, but I'm just wondering how frequently this stuff is going to come up. And I know we've talked about it before, whether a fire study would have to come from a request from the fire services. But I'm wondering if staff should also be reaching out to them to ask them if they're interested in having a fire study. This is only a couple of requests, but I'm just wondering, what's going to happen going forward. It seems it would be nice to have a better plan than just getting something every month or so saying we need 100,000 or 600,000. I'm just concerned as to where this might head. I totally respect the fire department's judgment to be able to deal with things, but I know other municipalities have had a fire study, and most larger municipalities that are fairly sophisticated have a study. I'm just raising that to see if there's any interest from council to have staff do that. That's it.
Okay.
Would you like to speak, Warden?
To the particular motion that's on the floor, which does not, but I would just say this particular fund is a specific fund that was established to assist rural fire departments with capital purchases. These requests don't come often. It often takes some time for significant amounts to build up in that fund, and we've become aware that there are some significant funding opportunities there. And so as fire departments are now becoming aware of that, these requests are coming through. With regards to a study, I think that's a discussion for perhaps another day, and whether a request from the fire service. I know there was some discussion going to take place at the chief's meeting around that, and I haven't heard the results of that. But just to this motion, that's why it just has happened that the fund has built up to an amount that fire departments have become aware, and their needs happen to be coming along at the same time, which I guess is fortunate.
Is there anything else, Councillor Tingley?
Oh, no, I understand that.
That's good. And Councillor Rhino?
I'd like to come on after the motion, we deal with the
okay.
motion.
Questions on the motion?
Okay, we have the question. We'll go to the vote. Oh, and the motion is passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Back to you, Warden.
Okay. So, Councillor Rhino, you wish to...
Just a couple of things. How is that replenished on a yearly basis, that funding that we're taking? This is not.
No, it's a little complicated. CAO, do you want to tackle that?
So this fund has been, through you, Madam Warden, this fund has been established and is funded, has been funded by generally the contingency fund as in the D-transfer tax. There was quite a number of times, 2 or 3 times, the council had put large chunks of funding into this fund.
Sometimes money is put into this fund from other funds to allow other funds to be spent on eligible expenses.
I'm getting refreshed here, but the thing is, I can't, like the municipality, when they set up being registered and everything, they had guidelines with regard to ages of trucks and replacing of trucks. And we're on the Maitland one, they are tried to replace one truck on an 8-year cycle, like one of their 3 trucks on an 8-year cycle, right? So they get 16 years out of one truck. Being at that, now this is just for information, being at that 50th anniversary of the Kinnico Fire Department, I had a conversation with Tyler Daphne, who is the chair of the fire chiefs, and he was quite open to different avenues and he had suggested one which I'll not bring up tonight, but I do feel, and I've always felt, that this municipality needs to do a report on the fire services and see what other options are out there other than the current one. I'm not saying to change it. I'm just saying, what do we need out there? We take stock on everything else we have out here. We on roads, we do asset reports on everything else. Why not have an asset report on fire departments, what their needs, what their uses is, and maybe we can come up with something better. I've always asked that for the many years as I've been here, and I always get the excuse, well, it's got to be coming from the fire service themselves. Well, I think that there's enough in the fire service now who are open to that discussion. And as a council, we can do this on our own. I know it's respectful to do it through with the fire chiefs involved, but I strongly believe that we need to account for what's going on in our fire service and take the assets out there and see if we can come up with some better way which would benefit the municipalities and residents that they serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Well, that concludes the business on the agenda for this evening. Oh, yes, Cecil, I'm sorry. Thank you for your patience.
No problem at all.
Counselor
Just one thing,
Dixon.
one counselor's not here tonight. She sits on the board for CCOA, and I'm a volunteer on that committee. And just want to bring you up to date at the meeting we had earlier this evening. The expected finish of the new building is January 13th, 14th. They'll be moving in there. We've hired, through the organization, have hired a contractor to move the equipment, get everything going. So I'm thinking probably the end of January, give or take a week or so, it'll be operational here in the park. And they do appreciate everything that council has done in the last 8-10 years supporting the organization. And it's going to probably double with the number of clients. So it's a very positive thing, and it's going to be a good place for lunch. Hint.
Yes.
Thank you, and I forgot to bring that up earlier.
Thank you very much, Counselor Dixon.
Have what?
So, I would be looking to set the date and time of the next council meetings, December the 10th, 2024, regular meeting of council for policy and in camera, and December 18th, 2024 for the regular meeting of council. This is where you're not supposed to say "so moved," folks. Moved by Counselor Mitchell. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Musa. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary, motion is carried. I would be now looking for a motion of adjournment. Moved by Counselor Rhino. Seconded by the Deputy Warden. All those in favor? Contrary, motion is carried. We are adjourned. I would just remind